Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, we're going to be going over the redistricting process in 2023, which is kind of weird to say because normally redistricting is done with the census every 10 years. Um, it really was happening in 2021, but now there's lots of litigation and as opposed to other previous decades, the maps are still being done, and there's still litigation, and there's still fights of how our house maps will turn out. And obviously, different maps can affect the house elections for our government. So yes.
Yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
I guess we should also say, like, first of all, this is our first video where Luke is the one sharing his screen and, leading the video. So some things might be different. He's going to be controlling, the screens. He's also a lot more experienced in terms of redistricting. He does this like in his free time all the time, which is why he has so many tabs up. So yeah, let's go into it,
So yeah, so right here, I just made this little map real fast on what I believe to be the most likely states to see redraws. Essentially, Louisiana, Alabama, and North Carolina are almost certain to have their maps redrawn this cycle. So we're bound to see some changes in their congressional. We're likely to see some changes in their congressional delegations. Wisconsin, Ohio, and New York are very likely to have changes to their maps. Of course, look with big states like Ohio, New York, that can be really big news. And the rest, mainly in the South, Utah, Texas, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, are all uh, at risk of having their maps redrawn due to various reasons like litigation, the Voting Rights Act, state constitutions, and so on. Now, in this video, we're only going to be covering um, what I have here on that is marked safe and likely. So those six: Louisiana, Alabama, North Carolina, Ohio, New York, and Wisconsin. So yes. And I guess we could start with Alabama here. So I mean, Alvin, do you want to talk about the Supreme Court case around this, the map? Do you want to do that, or
Yeah, I mean,
should I
I guess,
just?
the Supreme Court basically, after a lot of time, this was a case that was filed a really long time ago, made its way up to the Supreme Court, and basically the court said, hey, you have to give the African American, the black voters in the state a second district because it's possible. And the Alabama legislature is obviously controlled by the Republican Party, and they want to win more seats. So they drew a map that pretty much makes all the black voters concentrated in one district, which
Mhm.
black voters generally vote Democratic. So they got one district, and they allowed the Republicans to take the rest by splitting black power everywhere else. Now, what the court basically said was this is unfair. Black voters deserve a second seat in the state of Alabama, and that racial gerrymandering, this falls under racial gerrymandering, not partisan gerrymandering. Only
Yeah,
in the case of Alabama, though. So, yeah.
yeah. So that's Supreme Court. So this is the original map, the map that's currently in place. And as you can see here, this seventh district here, the deep blue district, is basically like Republicans packed all the black voters into this district to essentially limit their power. So that's why it kind of looks so weird. It's kind of reaching out everywhere. And yeah, while they can create a second black district, they didn't, and essentially the Supreme Court got mad at them for that and said you have to draw two black majority districts. So right now, this is the Alabama legislator is got that order, and they redrew their maps as they were ordered to, but they're kind of not really complying as of right now. As you can see, the new district that they draw is slightly less red. But you can also look on the right-hand side of the screen, the voting age population of the district, and see it's only 40% black. It's not a majority black district. So it's likely to get get challenged in court again. And I think in all likelihood, by the end of the day, we're going to more likely to see a map like I'm going to show you next. This is one I created, with two 50% black districts, like majority black districts, with compact communities. And yeah, essentially, it's the fact that it's possible is why the court ruled that way in the first place. And the court is the same court that ruled against the Republican legislator in the first place. I think Alabama's just going to get a court drawn map in all likelihood, and it's going to end up looking something like this. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see by the end. Right now, it's looking like this, but over the next few months, it's probably going to change. And it could, as you can see, it could add a Democratic seat to
It's the most
their
important
delegation.
part.
Yeah, that is. Um, mhm. And then, okay, so yeah, going on from Alabama here, we have Louisiana. Okay, so again, this is a similar sort of situation with the Supreme Court's ruling on the Voting Rights Act. Um, it also like applies to Louisiana, like it does in Alabama. The Republicans, I mean, in the legislature, have the power to draw a second black district, but they didn't. So essentially, yeah, it's the same sort of scenario all over again. Now, yeah, with this is the current map, and this is like one of my draft ones where you can see like it is possible to draw again on the right hand side two majority black districts. This one, the new one's 52% in this one, and the old one is 50%. But yeah, this one obviously isn't as blue as the Alabama district I showed you in the last one. And again, these are 2020 results. So Biden would have won this by a healthy margin. The new district by a healthy margin. And yeah, I think by the end of the day, we can expect to see a second bluish district in both the states by the end of the day with the new court draws. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's political implications for this, like in adding seats. I mean, Alvin, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of BS in terms of, this like racial thing. I don't think you should really be able to even look at race when drawing maps one way or another. But, the court has the power and I don't, so that's what happens in life. You don't always get your way, but in terms of political implications, obviously when you get the power to draw a map or you get to flip a seat. I mean, if you want to go back to New York Times map, like the Republicans barely clutched the House in 2022. And of course, the Democrats barely kept the House in 2020 by the same margin, actually. These are places where, it's only a 4-seat majority, 5-seat majority. And, when you see Louisiana and Alabama, for example, flipping one more seat to the Democrats, that now makes your majority in the House now 2 or 3 seats. So it's even a thinner margin. You get 1 or 2 moderate defections in terms of passing a bill or anything. And you can't pass the bill anymore. It doesn't matter which party you are. Obviously later we're going to see bad news for the Democrats in terms of redistricting as well, but it's harder and harder to do anything. Not only that, but obviously this in January this year, we had Kevin McCarthy, now Speaker of the House, have a very difficult time getting to become Speaker. He had to get his entire majority of Republicans to get into the speakership. And some of these Louisiana and Alabama districts that voted for McCarthy, these are congressmen and women that are part of the establishment, because most of the people that are going to lose their seats are obviously not those extremist types. So the extremist types are going to keep their seats, and it's going to make Kevin McCarthy have an even harder time, or someone similar to him, someone in the establishment, have an even harder time to become speaker. They're going to have to concede even more to the hardliners to become speaker. So there's a lot of implications. Obviously, big things can happen from redistricting.
Mm-hmm. I guess we'll move on to the next set of maps here in the next. Say this was actually a bigger one here. So right now, North Carolina, it's quite an interesting one here. So right now, North Carolina's delegation is split 7-7. The Democrats successfully won all the seats Biden won here. So it is 7-7 right now. But the thing was, essentially, the Republicans were drawing maps because they control the legislature in North Carolina that overwhelmingly gerrymandered the state. in their favor. But their liberal Supreme Court ruled against them and drew these maps to kind of cancel out that to stop that partisan gerrymandering. They said partisan gerrymandering is illegal under our state constitution. In 2022, the state Supreme Court flipped to a conservative majority, and essentially they undid that prior ruling, and they're giving the maps back to the state legislator to redraw them as they wish. Now, seeing as the state legislator tried to gerrymander it beforehand, it is likely they're going to do it again. This is one of their old maps here from 2021, where, yeah, like you see, like the Democrats had 7 in the last map, and now they're dropped to three solid seats and a fourth, which is ever so slightly went in Biden's favor, and something, despite it being a district with a higher black population, this is one of the few districts in the state that's shifting to the right, so it could actually, end up going to Republicans, and Democrats can only be left with 3 seats. So, I mean, I find that really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy how they just like butcher these Democratic counties. You see here, this county's cut into 3 separate pieces. Like yeah, like it really goes to like extreme lengths, and this could net Republicans a bunch of seats, like in their favor right there. So I mean, yeah, it's not all bad news for the Republicans here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of funny actually. Like I think whoever's getting paid to like make gerrymandered maps, like they're actually quite artistic. I think they do a really good job in terms of making sure the maps go one way or another. And I guess the thing with these types of maps is they make a lot of solid districts, right? Because let's say you're a Republican trying to gerrymander and you want to pack all the Democrats into safe districts so that they can't threaten you. And if you're a Democrat, you always want to pack the Republicans. Usually you try to spread out Republicans because Democrats are often in cities, so they try to if you're Democrat gerrymandering, you make big districts where the cities overwhelm the rural areas. And if you're a Republican, you often just cram cities into as few districts as possible because that's how you win many suburban and rural districts. And so, like in this case, when you're a Republican gerrymandering, you cram all these little city centers, as you can see,
yeah,
and it always makes really safe districts for your rural Republicans. Democrats always make just a few safe rural districts. So the thing with gerrymandering that is the most annoying is that your vote matters a lot less.
hmm
We always think about how your vote doesn't really matter in presidential elections unless you live in one of the swing states. Well, your vote doesn't matter in the House elections unless you live in a swing district, so that has implications as well.
yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, I liked how you brought up packing and cracking there. Like, yeah, you can see it here. Like the Republicans packed Democrats into I think, oof, what is this? Is this Charlotte? Oh God, I'm choking my cities. Oh no, but yeah, they packed Democrats into these deep blue cities here. But in the smaller cities, they kind of butchered them. Like, it's kind of harder to see here, but there's district lines that fall on right on the city here. I think this is Greensboro. So yeah, it just like it cuts it to pieces. Um, yeah, but yeah, that's the North Carolina situation. Moving on, we got Ohio here. It's a similar situation in North Carolina in that you had a slightly more, I wouldn't say liberal, moderate Supreme Court, because the Republicans did have control at the time, that ruled against this very map here, the current map, as a partisan gerrymander. But now you have a new Supreme Court which might rule differently. So Ohio is one of the uncertain ones because in 2022, Democrats actually did quite well. Uh, they held on to this Trump seat up here, this northern seat, District 9, and they successfully got flipped these two other seats, the lighter blue ones, the 13th with Amelia Sykes, and the first, I forgot the Democrat who ran here. I could probably check real fast, with Greg Landsman. So yeah, yeah. So Republicans, I don't know. This was supposed to be a gerrymandered map. They're supposed to win overwhelmingly, and I think they kind of dummy mandered it because the Democrats ended up gaining seats. So yeah, the
Yeah.
question really is like, do they bring it back to their more conservative Supreme Court and have them reaffirm it and keep this map in place, or do they kind of go with the more liberal past Supreme Court's ruling and redraw the map to try to make it more in their favor? So I guess we'll kind of see with that going forward what they do.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah.
even if it's like a dummy mander for one cycle, you have to keep in mind that it's still probably favorable in the long run. For example, like I don't think you can really judge gerrymanders based off of a single cycle because obviously there's shifts in one way or another. But since 2022 was a Republican, national year, and they still couldn't win some of these districts, it's kind of bad for them in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Democrats did have Tim Ryan at the top of the ticket, which really helped them out. Uh, so I mean,
True.
I guess there's that. But yeah, I guess we'll see going forward. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
Speaking of top of the ticket, we got New York coming up.
Yeah, New
Um,
York.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is a bit of a crazy one here. Um, so I mean, this is the current map, and actually, I will say the current map's quite fair, in my opinion. I mean, although Biden won a lot of these seats, like going upstate here, Republicans actually like flipped a lot of them in 2022, like the 22nd, the 19th, the 17th, the 4th and the 3rd. And the first, like all of these seats went for Biden and went for Republicans in 2022. So it is a fairer map. Like it is possible for Republicans to just do stupidly well. But obviously, you know, Democrats don't want that. They want to gain I mean as much as they can from a blue state like New York. So they initially, I think I have the initial gerrymanders here. I couldn't get the shape files for Dave's redistricting mod, but yeah, they initially tried to gerrymander it in 2021, but were shut down by their Supreme Court. Now again, Supreme Court's composition changed, slightly more liberal. They're bringing it back up again to try to overturn this current map, which Republicans did pretty well in, and get to reinstate essentially what's probably going to be a Democratic gerrymander to give them a very overwhelming advantage in 2024. And yeah, I think that could be really deadly going into 2022, just because it's so many seats at stake. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I really dislike all the changing. I think it should only be able to change every decade because you don't, as a voter, you want to know who your representative is. And I think all these like partisan court cases, I get it if you want to gerrymander, like yeah, like you want to do what is best for your policies. But I think once it's in place, like it should just be in place.
Mm,
All these things about changing all these districts around is really annoying. I think as a voter, it's tough because you don't know if you're gonna get swapped to another district or not, and it's not fun. But
I mean, yeah, in my opinion, I think the best solution to something like that is just like fixing the redistricting across the board. Like just national, like do like a complete national reform of it and get like independent commissions on it, or like fairly drawn AI generated maps or something. Like if you do that for every state, um like I mean there's no real reason to gerrymander anymore because you know for a fact every candidate's going to have a fair opportunity, like every party and every candidate's going to have a fair opportunity to win. And also I mean, yeah, like it's harder to challenge a map that's like completely fair on all fronts, of course. uh but yeah, I mean I guess this New York's a rare example where a fair map, I mean, yeah, like yeah, like I mean, it is an example where a fair map is being it's being challenged in an attempt to be gerrymandered. But yeah, I guess we'll
how
see.
you even know how that's possible? Like, how do you even challenge a fair map? Like, what's the
Oh
grounds
yeah.
that you challenge it on? That's unfair. Like, and then you make it more unfair. I don't get it.
Oh, I think yeah, I think they're trying to charge that under the state law, the Democrat, like the legislator was supposed to draw the district, and not the not the court or something. It's like they're taking like the opposite routes of a lot of other Democrat challenges to other maps. It is so wonky. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like you just see parties like scraping for different advantages when
that's
really it
really
should be fair
weird.
across the board. Anyway, we should move on to our final state real
We
fast.
should.
Okay, so here we have Wisconsin. Wisconsin right now, um, is not the fairest considering it's a swing state. Biden only got only 2 of the 8 districts went to Biden, which isn't really fair considering it's like a 50-50 state. Um, so yeah, it's not the best, but essentially, um, long story short, uh, Democrats flipped the state Supreme Court this year, and yeah, they won that seat by like a massive margin. But yeah, essentially, the Supreme Court, which is now liberal, is largely expected to go after this current gerrymandered map, or and you know try to get in place a fair map. So yeah, essentially, right here, you see Republicans have a big majority. This is a concept I created. Like, I mean, yeah, it's possible to create a fair map here. Like, you get a nice 4-4 split, right there. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing, you split like
Definitely not.
Milwaukee here, but I mean, yeah, it's possible to have something like that. And you keep lots of the southern like plateau region here together. Like, I mean, yeah, yeah, I think, but yeah, like I think chances are Democrats, they might not gain 2 seats from this. Maybe they'll gain one. Um, like, but yeah, we're yet to see how that's gonna kind of shake out. But yeah, that's kind of a yeah, that's kind of the redistricting roundup, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
We got some good news for both parties, some bad news for each party, and I guess it just remains to be seen. And 2024 is coming up really quickly. Actually, it feels very far, but it's not. It's only, it's only a year and like what, 3 months away. So, you know, 15
Alvin,
months. Yeah.
what's your take on who benefits more from the potential gerrymanders in this
I think it's
2023
I think it's
cycle here?
definitely Democrats. In
Yeah, I
terms of the
mean,
changes, I mean, only North Caro is a pro-Republican, thing. Everything else is Democrats, especially New York. I think, Alabama and Louisiana are fairly minor. One seat. I don't,
yeah,
yeah, they add up. You can give that argument, but New York is the big thing.
yeah.
Wisconsin is like what, 2 seats? It's still a thing, but New York, I don't know how you even challenge a fair map. Personally, I don't even see how you even give that argument,
Yeah, I
but I
mean, it
guess
shouldn't
it
really even be
exists.
happening. But yeah, I would agree here. I mean, the New York, I want to say again, the New York thing isn't for certain. It's going through court now. But yeah, it is likely. I think it is likely to go through. But yeah, we'll see. Like, I think at the end, like assuming it passes, I think Democrats would gain from redistricting. And going into 2024, I think that makes them. I think that would actually put them in favor of winning the House. Like, especially with New
Yeah,
York on
I
some
think
side
in
there.
general they're in favor of winning the House, even without the
Yeah,
redistricting. But the redistricting gives them a little more of a boost, which you can always use a boost. And I want to add that it's not always about just winning. I think the margin is what really matters. Winning the House by like 1 seat, for example, that's really really thin. Like you don't want to just win the House because people die, people change parties, people have
hmm,
problems with the speaker. There's big problems. So you got to
yeah.
win by a healthy margin. 10 or so is usually pretty safe. You want to win by at least 10 seats.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
think, yeah, I
Well,
think we're
that's it,
good.
right? I guess like the video, subscribe, leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. If you made it to the end about on a video about redistricting, you obviously like our channel, so you could probably ring that bell. And yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
watching.
share with your friends, again, 2024 house hype, uh, who's gonna take the house? Will it be, I mean, essentially the map makers have the control, so I guess we'll see.
Will
Uh,
Hakeem Jeffries finally get his first stint as House Speaker? Or will Kevin McCarthy, keep the gavel?
yeah,
Who knows? Or someone else. It could be someone else. You never know. So, all right.
yeah.
Thanks for watching.
See ya.